So Manomet, our headquarters are in Plymouth, Massachusetts, but we do have staff kind of all throughout the Western Hemisphere, including down in Central and South America. We've been around for over 50 years, and we are a conservation and sustainability nonprofit. And our origin began as an ornithology organization. So we were one of the first bird banding labs in the country. And today we're, I think, one of the oldest and largest in North America. And so what I mean by bird banding lab is that we track migratory birds with these little sensors. And so I don't know, it was about 25 years ago, we started seeing through the data that climate change was really impacting bird migration. And so at that point, we started to sort of evolve into a kind of a broader organization that incorporated people, realizing that while the birds and other species may be highly impacted by climate change, they're not the species that can do anything about it. So that responsibility lies with one species, that would be us humans. And so we started developing different programming to work with humans and businesses in different industries, to try to work with them on changing their practices as a way to reach our broader conservation goals and to address climate change more broadly. So as it says here, by empowering stakeholders through science, we work with partners to make a world where ecosystems and human communities can thrive. So that's really what we're focusing on, is looking at how natural ecosystems and human communities can coexist and thrive together. And climate change and diversity, equity, and inclusion cut across all of the work that we do. And those two in particular are paramount to the U360 program. So U360 is really focused on young change makers who want to make a difference in the world and especially want to impact the climate crisis. So that's really how U360 ties into Manomet's broader mission. Is U360 is focused on helping the next generation and small businesses really gain the tools and strategies to help tackle climate change and to help us to help kind of make changes in their own personal lives and in their businesses and in their future careers to help reach our broader goals of, like I said, conservation and creating a more sustainable world and sustainable systems on our planet. So this Venn diagram really kind of captures the purpose and mission of U360. So U360 really has kind of three primary purposes. And the first, I'll start with the yellow circle, is preparing the next generation of change makers, essentially. So this younger generation is going to be disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis and by other sustainability challenges that we're facing today, whether those are social issues, economic issues. Their futures are really the ones that are at most risk, and yet they often have the least amount of influence or power in making decisions that will affect their futures. And oftentimes young people are told that you don't have enough experience, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know how the world works, and so they often get dismissed and aren't included in the problem solving to tackle some of these issues that, like I said, will disproportionately impact people of that age. And so we do not subscribe to that notion at Manomet, and we really believe that the people who will be most impacted by the climate crisis need to have a seat at the table and be part of creating solutions to these, this incredibly complex problem, whether that means the younger generation, lower income communities, communities of color, that we really want representation from the people who will be most impacted. And so part of what we're doing with this yellow circle is really helping this younger generation gain especially the interpersonal skills and to really understand effective problem solving. And so a lot of times part of why people dismiss the younger generation is they may come out of college with big ideas of how to change the world without maybe a complete understanding of how to effectively make changes in the real world, or how to work with people who think differently than them, or how to really do some of that that strategizing with different stakeholders. And they may not have the confidence to kind of step up and take a seat at that table. So U360 is really about helping the next generation gain confidence, gain interpersonal skills, and gain an understanding of how things work in the real world so they can be effective change makers. And that brings us to the bluish purple circle, where one way that we believe that the next generation can really make a difference in the world and affect change is through their future jobs and workplaces. So really trying to, and we're already seeing that in the way that the younger workforce is helping to shift workplace cultures. And so we really believe that that can also pertain to sustainability, both environmental and social sustainability. And so what we want with U360 is, we are not trying to turn out a whole cohort of students that are going to go into conservation or the environmental field. What we really want is college students coming out of school going into all different industries and fields and disciplines, bringing the principles of sustainability to those jobs. So having college graduates going into engineering or manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, these industries that tend to have a pretty significant footprint on our planet and our resources, and having these young people go into these fields knowing how to make change from the inside. And so in order for them to do that, U360, these college graduates need to get jobs. And so U360 is heavily focused on professional development. The entire curriculum is actually based on the NACE competencies. And so it's really focused on helping college students gain those soft skills and kind of the technical skills that employers are seeking. And then the third circle is focus on business sustainability. So we really can't talk about U360 without talking about the small businesses that are involved in the program. And if you've read some of the materials about U360, you may know that the bulk of the program involves the students reaching out to small businesses across the country, requesting an interview with them about their practices. And during that interview, they actually conduct a sustainability assessment of that business. So it's Manomet's, it's a tool that we created specifically for small businesses. And the reason that we focus on small businesses specifically is because there are over 6 million of them in this country, and they have a significant collective environmental footprint, but they're often, and they also represent like 99% of businesses in this country and provide over 55% of jobs in this country. So they have huge economic contributions and, like I said, a large collective footprint, but they're often overlooked when it comes to sustainability because they have time constraints, financial constraints. Being a small business owner is incredibly demanding, and their number one priority is keeping their business in operation. The success rate for small businesses is, it's a really uphill climb, and with the pandemic, it's become even more so. And so U360 is really designed to give these small business owners a free opportunity to evaluate their own sustainability practices and look at sustainability as an approach that's not only good for the planet and for society, but also really good for their bottom line. And so then we also have an online toolkit that they can access, where there are resources where they can that they can use to actually improve their sustainability practices. And just as a little anecdote, we ask all businesses who have participated to complete an anonymous survey afterwards about the experience. And consistently, about 75% of the small businesses say that it was a highly valuable experience being asked those questions about their business, because for a small business owner, they're often so focused on the day-to-day that they rarely have the opportunity to step back and take this wide angle view of their company. And so, 3/4 of them found it to be highly valuable, and about 40% said that it's highly likely that they'll make changes to their practices just as a result of talking to that student for about an hour, which is really amazing considering these are just undergraduate students asking questions and they're not doing any sort of consulting, but it helps get the wheels turning for the businesses. And then we follow up with them a year later and we find, in fact, that a high percentage do make changes, and they attribute U360 to saying that U360 influenced those changes. So it's really rewarding for the students to know that the work that they're doing in this program is actually leading to real change in the world, that there are actual real businesses out there doing things differently and reducing their impact because of the conversation the student had with them. So put a little differently, U360 is really designed to give college students vital experience in 3 areas that we see as vital to effective change making that can't be taught just through coursework alone. So the first is career preparedness, which I just talked about. So looking at helping students develop their professional communication, written, oral, over the phone, email, in person, face to face, teamwork and collaboration, creative problem solving and strategic thinking, professionalism and work ethic. So it's really focused on preparing college students for their future careers. And we sort of jokingly refer to U360 as a professional development boot camp. So it's really designed to be the program that comes before the student's first paid internship or job, because I'm sure you all hear this a lot, that students know they need an internship to get experience, but a lot of times internships require experience and they say, well, how am I supposed to get that experience? And so this is really where U360 fits in, where I kind of go through all the nuts and bolts of professional skills, everything from down to like the do's and don'ts of professional communication, time and project management. And so it's really about helping students develop those critical skills. The next is applied business sustainability. So whether students are interested, whether they're coming from environmental and sustainability disciplines or business majors, economics majors, this program is really designed to help them take everything that they're learning in their classes and understand how those principles can be practically applied in the real world. So, right, a lot of times, especially I see with my environmental majors, again, that they have these big ideas of changes that could be made on a small scale, on a large scale, but don't necessarily understand all of the potential constraints or barriers that might keep people and organizations from operating more sustainably. So this is a really in-depth understanding of how to create feasible, practical solutions in the real world. And for business majors, it's also an opportunity for them to talk to a couple dozen business owners and see firsthand how businesses operate in the real world. And then lastly, the one that I personally think may be the most important is learning how to work with and engage with people who think differently than you. So by talking with, a couple dozen business owners, they're talking to people from all different backgrounds, geographic locations, people who have very different viewpoints about sustainability or climate change. Even among our cohort of students, recruiting and formulating a U360 class that is diverse in every sense of the word is critically important, so that they can also learn from each other. And it's really about learning how to find common ground with people who might think differently than you. So I always like to say that, you may be motivated by protecting the planet, but somebody else, a business owner, may be motivated by saving money for their company. And that's okay, that you may be coming from point A and they're coming from point B, but you're just trying to get to that common place of point C together. And so it's really about learning how to start by listening and understanding where someone else is coming from and speaking about the things that you care about in a way that, framing it in a way that speaks to that person's values. And so U360 is highly focused on this. And especially for my environmental majors, they spend 4 years surrounded by students who view these issues just the same way they do, taught by professors who believe in climate change. And that's just, that's not a universal truth. You know, there are people who have very different viewpoints about that. So it's about learning how to listen and really kind of meet people where they are so that you can try to create change together. So as it may be apparent by now, but if not, I will clearly state it, that U360 is very different from a typical internship. And when I say typical, what I mean is an internship where a student is hired by a company or an organization and working on projects that are kind of internal to the company, whether that's helping to roll out a new product or working on their social media marketing, doing research and data collection. So where interns are doing work that the organization would be doing anyway. So U360 is not like that. U360 really is an experiential education program and a professional development program. And so U360 is part of the environmental education and outreach division at Manomet. And it really is it's like a hybrid between a course and a job. And sometimes it'll feel more like a class, sometimes it'll feel more like a job, but at all times it should feel like a mixture of both for the students. So they are interns of ours at Manomet, but the work that they're doing for us is really designed to help them achieve the educational and professional development goals of the program. And the entire experience, the entire program is based and focused on their educational experience. So they're not doing work that we would be doing anyway. This is an educational program at Manomet. And because it is so focused on professional development, it absolutely qualifies as an internship by all standards of whether we're talking about NACE or the Department of Labor. And so students get to kind of benefit from having both an educational course and have an internship job that they can put on their resume. And so as such, U360 does have a curriculum and learning objectives. And it's a 2-semester program that is broken into 4 phases. And the first phase is about 6 weeks long in the fall. And it's when we do a series of workshops and trainings to get everybody sort of on the same page, because we have students coming from all different majors, all different colleges, grade levels. So the first 2 weeks are the educational workshops where we cover everything from the realities of running and owning a small business. What is business sustainability? What do we mean when we say that? How to engage with small business owners, the environmental issues facing us today that impact small businesses. We do sort of a business management 101 workshop. And then we move into the professional skills training sessions, where, like I said before, we do like a do's and don'ts of professional communication. Like, for example, during that workshop, we go through all of literally the kind of standards of email communication and face-to-face communication. And then I anonymously reference all of their applications to me when they applied for the program. So I don't name names, but I was a prospective employer, and I go through and say things like, who spelled my name wrong, or who didn't sign their own name, or who, how many people did this. And so it's really about learning how to make a really positive first impression over email and things like that. And then we cover time and project management, confidentiality and ethics, because they are going to be doing data collection for us. And then we spend the rest of the time training them on how to conduct that sustainability assessment and do a lot of interview practice. And so all of that phase 1 is really training them for phase 2, which is the majority of the internship. It's about 20 weeks over the fall and spring, and the students create their own list of businesses. They do the research, they find the businesses that they want to contact So we don't give them lists. We want them to contact businesses that they're personally interested in. And we provide email templates and phone scripts that they can use. There's a high level of mentorship and support and coaching, but they independently reach out to these businesses, and it's about 50 businesses in the fall and about 80 to 100 in the spring. And so they're corresponding with a very high volume of businesses requesting an interview, and then they conduct the interviews. And after every interview, I enter their data into our online system and follow up with each business to give them their sustainability scores and talk with them about kind of next steps for improving their sustainability. So during phase 2, the students, that's really the crux of where they achieve the educational and professional objectives of this program, because by corresponding with that many businesses, they're learning how to present themselves professionally, how to manage that level of correspondence. They have to be flexible and adaptive because small businesses, things come up all the time and they'll cancel and reschedule. And so they have to they get asked questions during interviews that require them to think on their feet. So and they have to carry themselves professionally because they're representing us publicly. So there's so many opportunities for professional development. And they also learn a ton about how businesses operate and how sustainability can be applied in the real world. And also for the businesses that aren't as sustainable, they learn a lot about what's preventing them from doing that. So what are some of those barriers? So there's so much to learn where the students learn from these businesses. And as I said before, the businesses typically agree to participate because they want to help a student. But what we find in that anonymous survey is they learn so much about their business too, and they learn so much from the students, which is really this lovely like win-win situation for them. And then the program ends. The last 6 weeks of the program kind of combines phases 3 and 4, where every student picks one business that they interviewed and creates a sustainability action plan for the business. So it's an original research project that they do, where they create specific, feasible, highly researched recommendations for how their business could improve their overall sustainability. And they have to make the case for how those changes would also benefit the business. So not just be good for the planet, but also be good for the business's bottom line, because that's what would really motivate and inspire these businesses to make changes. And so it's a really rewarding project where they get to bring together everything they learned in phase 1, everything they've learned from these businesses in phase 2, and create their own original piece of work. And they get to step into the shoes of consultant. And so they take this action plan and turn it into a pitch as if they were presenting it to their client. And then we have a competition. And so the first round of competition, the students present their action plan to alumni judges, so former students from the program, and they do a Q&A with them, and they ask questions that make them have to defend their action plan. And videos of those presentations get entered into a judging round of a whole pool of outside judges in academia, business, sustainability, so professionals in the field. And they score those videos, and then the top 3 students move on to our final capstone competition, which happens at our commencement as well, where the 3 students compete live, presenting their action plan to 3 judges, and have to do that same Q&A on the spot. And they're competing for the title of Manomet's Next Generation Scholar and $1,000 scholarship award. So that's really the culminating event of the year, which we just did a couple weeks ago, and we have a video of on our YouTube channel. So that's kind of what wraps up the U360 year. I should also mention, before I get into the nuts and bolts of U360, that one of what I consider to be the most special parts of U360 is that we have a team of volunteers called our alumni assistance team. So these are previous students from the program who had such a positive experience that they choose to kind of stay connected to the program after they finish as volunteers for Manomet. And their role is really mentoring the current class of students. So we have alum assistants. We have one that's going to be going into her 4th year doing it this coming year. We have alum assistants that are out in the workforce that just find it so rewarding to be able to give back to this program and really help the current students succeed. So we have the whole cohort of students are broken into teams for phase 2. So they really get to work in kind of smaller groups and develop relationships with their colleagues. And 2 alumni assistants are assigned to each team. And so those are their mentors for the whole year. So they're available for everything from helping them practice interviews to helping with their writing, communication skills, just like their entire focus is helping these students succeed, as is Claire's focus and my focus throughout the whole year too. But it's just a really invaluable part of the program. So just some of the nuts and bolts of U360. Like again, it is the fall and spring semester, both semesters. It's about an average of 10 hours a week. So some weeks are a little bit more than that, some weeks a little bit less, but it kind of rounds out to 10 hours a week. It depends on where we are in the curriculum and also students' individual learning curves. And then we accept up to 40 students from colleges. We accept up to 40 students from colleges throughout the country. The internship is entirely virtual via Zoom, and I always like to specify that it always has been. So from the time I created this program, it was a virtual remote work experience so that we could, so it would be more accessible and inclusive for people beyond just the radius of our office. And so we did not just pivot to Zoom when COVID happened. And so we have the virtual workspace mastered. The relationships that develop even through this virtual space are really incredible. The friendships that are made. And from day one, we really emphasize to the students that this is not like Zoom school. This is you learning how to work for an organization remotely, which, you know, a lot of companies will not be going back to being in person after COVID. And so learning how to engage with new colleagues virtually, how to conduct yourself professionally over Zoom, like those are a lot of the principles that we teach in this program. The program is specifically for current sophomores, juniors, and seniors, although we will consider graduate students on an individual basis. So it would be students rising sophomores through seniors this summer. And then the internship is unpaid, but depending on the university and the department, course credit is often available for students, and we do anything that we can to offer that we need to do to make it so students can get credit. And the real reason that the program is unpaid is because it really is more of an educational program. And again, the focus is entirely on the student's experience, not work that they're doing for us unpaid. And so and it costs nothing for them. So even things like printing, like we mail them things so they don't have to incur any cost whatsoever, and they don't have to travel anywhere or anything like that. So and we are a nonprofit as well. So and I do know that there are some schools that have kind of foundational funding that some students can apply for to get stipends to be able to do unpaid internships. And so I always will do anything, provide any information that I need to help students to make this feasible for students. So yeah. So since 2016, yes, I launched the program. I piloted the program in January of 2016 with just 3 students from a college here in Portland, Maine. And we only had sort of 6 students in that first year. And since then, we've had 139 students complete the program from 41 different colleges, and they have interviewed over 1,650 small businesses in all 50 states and 3 countries to this point. And the businesses have ranged in size from 1 employee to 5,400 employees, but I would say the average is probably 75 to 100 employees. and they represent well over 100 different industries and types. So students are talking to like every type of small business that you can possibly imagine, especially after COVID, when there were a lot of businesses that were off limits, like restaurants, entertainment, recreation. So they had to really kind of think strategically and start reaching out to like excavating companies and things. And the students in the fall interview a whole variety of businesses, but then in the spring they get to choose one industry or subject matter to focus on. So they could focus on like the food system, for example, or transportation, clothing and apparel, or they could like all businesses related to animals. We've had students do that, or they can choose an owner demographic. So we've had students do all women-owned businesses, LGBTQ-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, Latinx, AAPI-owned businesses, Indigenous-owned businesses. So they can really focus on a subject that they're personally interested in, because one huge benefit of U360 is that by engaging with all these businesses, the students are building their professional network as well. And we've had business owners say things like, call me when you graduate, like we would love to talk with you about working here, or definitely be in touch if there's anything I can do to help. And so they're starting to build that network that, you know, all of you, I'm sure, tell your students are so critical. We all know how critical your network is. And so they get to choose a subject matter that they're personally interested in a field they may want to go into after college and start building relationships. So I'm going to just wrap up by talking about some of the outcomes and impacts of this program on the students. And before I get to some of the numbers and the stats, I'm going to turn it over to Claire for a moment to just talk about her own personal experience as a student in the program 5 years ago, and then what she saw with some of the students that she got to work with for her first year this year as a program assistant.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. So as Laura said, I did the program back in 2017, and I started it when I was a junior in college. I was one of the environmental majors, as Laura has talked about a lot throughout this little presentation. So I had an understanding of sustainability, not in relation to businesses really, and not much class experience talking about how to apply it. So as Laura said, I had all of these big ideas and no real understanding of how it works in the real world and how to apply these, big grand schemes or ideas that I had in my head. I was also very nervous about talking about sustainability to my peers as well, but also especially to people who sustainability is not something that they're super passionate about or know a lot about. And also just in general, talking to people that I don't know. I was not super confident in my professional communication or speaking on the phone, as simple as just making a doctor's appointment, things like that. So I was, one of those students. I think there are a lot that come through the program. And I also knew at the end of my time at U360 that I was going to have to do public speaking, and that terrified me as well. So all of those things said, I was, hoping for a lot out of this program, and I really did get it. By the end, I was able to, confidently speak about sustainability to people who, again, don't, care about it as much as I do, or have, kind of base knowledge, especially with people with differing opinions. And talking on the phone in general was something that I felt a lot more confident in. Confidence in my skills, knowing that, I can do this, and just, confidence in myself in general. And then still public speaking, which is, something is still a work in progress, but definitely U360 gave me that jumping off point to say, okay, this is something I can work on, and something, while it's terrifying, it's something that I can certainly do. And then, so by the time I completed U360 and graduated and started to, work in the industry, I, with that first job outside of school, I definitely went in with a lot more confidence, knowing that I had done a lot of these things. And, I had applied these skills in other ways before in U360, and I would be able to apply them in this job as well. And, was able to confidently kind of transition to a more professional role. And then I can definitely guarantee that those first couple of jobs that I've gotten out of college, U360 was a big part of that. Not only Lora being a mentor and a reference, but just being able, in those interviews, a lot of the questions that they asked and kind of skills and stuff that I talked about were all very much linked to U360. So it really made a huge impact when it came to, applying for jobs and starting my career. And I can also say that I see a lot of that in the students just this past year. Another skill that I saw a lot of them grow in, not just confidence, but more of those soft skills. I was a very organized person, but I know, and also I had, peers in my class that that was not one of their strong suits. They, were able to kind of take these, I want to say weaknesses, but things that they didn't, that they struggled a little bit with, even just in like a school setting, and really, gain kind of those skills from seeing Lora, seeing their peers, and now they're the alum assistants, and being able to, really learn a lot of skills that helped them through the rest of their college career. I'd say a lot of the students, not even just skills, but gaining that experience with having peers from different colleges, different majors. Like Lora said, we spend a lot of our college time with students who are interested in studying the same exact thing as us. So getting that experience to, just be able to talk with peers and make friends with people and, all different settings and stages of life is, I think, also a really big benefit as well. Yeah, I think that's all I have, Lora.
Yeah, that's great. I would echo a lot of what Claire said about the students from this year, that what we hear just time and time again is the impact that this program has on their organizational skills, their time management, things that just translate into their other classes in college. We had students where they were so nervous about reaching out and picking up the phone and calling business owners, just like terrified almost. And they did it. They pushed the boundaries of their comfort zone because it is such a supportive environment and there's such a community feel. In U360, you have your teammates, your alum assistants, me, Claire. And so I have one student in particular that was terrified about making calls and ended up having the second highest number of interviews of her entire class. We had an international student who really was struggling with her confidence on her communication in English, and we really worked with her on her written and verbal communication, and she just grew in confidence there as well. A lot of students who really developed that excellent balance between confidence and humility, professional and personable. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. And in terms of the impact on their career development, I've sort of lost track of how many times I've heard from alumni that the first thing they get asked in a job interview is, tell us about this U360 internship. We've never seen anything like this. And it's just the skills that they gain are so transferable to so many jobs, so many careers, but also the skills they gain come through so clearly in their application materials and their interviews with the prospective employers. I serve as references for these students. I hear from the prospective employers things like, I don't know what kind of program this is, but we've never seen a candidate like so-and-so. The first time I ever served as a reference for Claire, actually, they said we've been interviewing for this job for 2 months and she was in a category all of her own. And she got that job. And then some of the jobs and the places where students have been hired right out of college have been incredibly impressive. So like financial investment firms, large companies. Not one of my students or one of my alumni was promoted to executive director of a nonprofit within a year after graduating college. So there's we track our alumni, and we kind of compile a list of the places that hire them. And especially during the pandemic, it was an exceptionally high hiring rate for the students coming out of college during the pandemic. So I do have a couple stats on the outcomes and impacts. If we can go to the next slide. So we do have the students fill out a survey at the end of the year, and the current data show that as a result of U360, over 90% of students report an increase in their level of experience and comfort with interview skills, communicating professionally, and the percentages are how many students reported an increase in that. So 98% reported an increase in interview skills and professional communication, professional correspondence, maintaining professionalism, using digital technology in a professional capacity, managing workflows and deadlines independently, and networking. And then, as I said, our whole curriculum is focused on helping students develop the NACE competencies. And we just recently started measuring this, so our data set is smaller on this one, but over 60% of students report that U360 was very good or excellent at providing opportunities to attain the NACE competencies that are always the top 4. So professionalism, work ethic, oral written communication, critical thinking and problem solving, and teamwork and collaboration. And I also want to mention that over 80% of students say that U360 provided more opportunities to attain those two, professionalism and communications, than either their coursework or their other professional experiences that they've had. Like I said, we do survey the businesses that participate, and consistently, not like since we've been measuring this for 5 years now, and we have an over 50% response rate from businesses, which is an unheard of response rate in a survey. So it's a very accurate, very accurate data that we have, and consistently 99% of small businesses that were interviewed rated the students' professionalism as high or extremely high. And I can say that that wasn't necessarily the case when they came into the program. So that is definitely a result of the training and practice. And then in terms of learning about applied sustainability, 97% of students or more report an increase in their knowledge of what businesses can do to take action on climate change. Actually, that one right there is 100% of students report an increase in their knowledge of that. And then sustainable business practices and small business management. And so we're just going to wrap up with this video. You did get to hear from Claire, but here are some snippets of impacts on other alumni from past years. So we'll wrap up with this, and then any questions in the last few minutes that you have.
U360 did a lot for me.
To me, the U360 program was and is incredible because it focuses on personal and professional development, which a U360 member carries throughout their whole career.
The U360 program had an amazing impact not only in my knowledge and sustainability, but also helped my professional development as well. And after this amazing experience, I was able to see things from more than one perspective, and I was also able to increase my own personal self-confidence as well.
A few weeks ago, I had a phone interview, an hour-long phone interview for an internship, and I was super comfortable doing it. And a lot of people in our generation could not say that, talking on the phone for an hour. But because of U360, I've gained my confidence, and as a result, I actually got that internship. So really grateful that I had that experience my sophomore year.
When I was able to present at both the capstone presentations, I was networking with sustainability professionals, and I was able to practice my public speaking skills, which I've already relied on countless times since then. And so it really helped grow me professionally in ways that I will be able to talk about in interviews for years to come.
One thing that I thought was really important about this internship was the ability to actually see how sustainability works in the real world and have that hands-on experience with business owners and organizations. I think a lot of that has to do with Lora being such an encouraging and supportive program manager, and always rooting us on at every step of the way, saying that you can do this, always having our back. And so I will forever be thankful for that.
Today, I hold a full-time job in the energy industry, and I know that at work,
I used the professional communication and organization skills that I learned in U360 every single day. At the beginning of U360, I was not very confident with my communication skills. I was too scared to make phone calls. I was nervous about sending professional emails and overall professional communication. And by the end of U360, I was able to speak with and interview 32 small business owners about their sustainability.
I would say the program taught me how to write professional emails, to have professional conversations, to have the confidence to pick up the phone and talk to clients. And most of all, it gave me the tools to talk about environmental issues in a way that anyone could understand. And I just wanted to say that this program was great for me and helped me get this job here in Washington, D.C.
I focused on women-owned businesses, and I was able to learn so much from these women that I could look up to, learn from, and just use the experiences that they were offering me to further myself, my professionalism, and my education. Such an amazing experience that I would tell anybody to gain.
El programa U360 me dio las herramientas y el soporte para crecer profesional y personalmente. Me ayudó con mi confidencia y con mi disciplina a través de las llamadas, de los correos y de las entrevistas para aprender sobre los negocios, a lo cual también la gran importancia de hablar sobre la sostenibilidad en varias maneras para sostener el tema, por lo menos en la mente de la gente, que podemos hacer algo, que necesitamos tomar acción, que necesitamos la ayuda de ese granito para hacer la diferencia.
The problems that we're facing as environmental issues worsen are amplified for small businesses that often operate on such thin margins already. But U360 showed me that there is strength in numbers. If we can come together as a team from all different backgrounds and learn from one another, then we can truly change the world. I love the U360 network that we've built, and I can't wait to see how it keeps growing.
Being a kind of shy college student, not really sure of myself, not really sure what to say to people or how to communicate, U360 gave me the tools and the confidence to be able to walk up to somebody and comfortably talk to them about sustainability. That's not something that I think I would have gained in the classroom, just because you're talking with other students. But outside of the classroom, when you're in charge of talking to business owners as a college student, it gives you this amazing opportunity to work on those professional skills. And that's something U360 absolutely did for me. And I am grateful every day that I did this program.